Fellas, we're taking a look at individual player parlays that are available for Super Bowl 56 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's start with the quarterbacks, two former number one overall picks, drafted 11 years apart, making their first appearance in the big game. Joe Burrow, 375 plus passing yards and at least 3 passing touchdowns at plus 1,100 odds. Geoff, those good enough to chase?
So this is a really interesting prop. When I was doing my research for this question, and yes, I actually do perform that service for this show, I found out Joe Burrow hit this prop 3 times this season. It was no, you got to take it with a grain of salt. 2 of them were against the Baltimore Ravens, who like legitimately were playing wide receivers at cornerback this year. One of them was against the Chiefs, but I mean, this is certainly doable. I think I like the yardage part of this a lot more than the touchdown part. I don't necessarily like this prop in general. I think plus 1,100 is just a little bit too short. The Rams didn't allow 3 passing touchdowns against once all year, so we're kind of asking for them to just sort of regress all at once here. It could happen, but if you go in the player parlay section, you can get Joe Burrow over 375 passing yards and over 25 rush yards. You can get Joe Burrow over 375 rush yards and a rushing touchdown for plus 2,800, and you can get them for plus 2,200 with that rush yard prop as well. So I like going over on Joe Burrow in these player parlays for the passing yards. I just don't like him with this passing touchdown prop because against the Rams, they're pretty good in the red zone and covering against the pass, but be bullish on Joe Burrow's over in his passing yards.
All right, Pearce, how do you feel about these odds for this bet?
It's just a little too steep for me. 375 passing yards, that's a lot. And this is the playoff defenses they're facing. You just don't get these type of numbers. And as Geoff mentioned, he got them a couple times during the regular season, but it's rare. Now he's got to do it against the 6th best pass DVOA that's got 2 weeks to prepare for this. Yeah, the Rams did allow a quarterback to go over this twice this season, just twice. Kyler Murray went over it, Tom Brady. But more often than not, you don't throw for this many yards in a big-time playoff game against the Rams. He got close to this against the Titans, but the Titans didn't have that quite a secondary. And also, I think the touchdowns odds are a little high, too. We know that the Bengals settle for field goals. We know that the Bengals will give the ball to Mixon. I think they're all just a little too high.
All right, Alan, your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are that I'm not sure I'm ever going to be able to look at cauliflower the same way again. But the odds are intriguing enough for me to bite. Those numbers are just a tick above what we can reasonably expect from Joe Burrow, but that's why the odds are sweetened. The key to the Bengals is most likely that high-flying circus dynamic duo of pass catchers with Burrow, so it's a reasonable bet. If we add another 40-yard screen to a scrub like Samaje Perine, that's just gravy on top. Burrow did have that 2-game tear late in the season where he averaged an eye-popping 485 yards and 4 touchdowns. I'll click the button on this one.
Ooh, okay.
All right, fellas, for a running back parlay, Pearce, how do you feel about Joe Mixon, 100-plus rushing yards and 50-plus receiving yards at plus 1,800?
It's tough here as well, but I am much more likely to click the button for this one than I am for Joe Burrow. The payout's better, but I can see this reasonably happening. It's about 10 to 15 yards higher than I would set his ceiling at in receiving or rushing wise. It's probably 10 yards more than where he will typically receive against a pretty good defense in the Rams. But the Rams are 24th when it comes to missed tackles, and we know that they are inconsistent and they make mistakes. And so all we're really asking for is maybe a mistake it turns into a big chunk run, and another mistake that turns into a chunk reception. And I could see this one much more likely to happen. Probably the one bet I like the most on this segment is going to be the Mixon totals.
All right, Alan, do you agree? You like this one a bit more enticing?
I usually fade these types of props because casual bettors come online for the Super Bowl, and the books give less favorable odds when they know who the consumer is. But I'm going to give DraftKings credit here. Mixon's likely outcome is not 150, but the odds are there to support the outcome. Mixon hasn't had a big rushing game since week 12 where he had that 165 yards on the ground, but he did have 88 last week. Super Bowls have historically had some big scoring games. The 1,800 sounds good to me.
All right, Geoff, does it sound good to you?
So, like kind of Pearce alluded to, it's maybe just a touch too high. Like I think the odds are really close on this one as well, but I'm more bullish on Joe Mixon on the receiving totals this week than I am in the rushing. I think the rushing, you're really going to need like the guys have alluded to, some mistakes by the Rams defense. They just don't make mistakes in the rush game very often. The last time they allowed a 100-yard rusher was like week 4 or something. If you go down further, you can get Cam Akers and Joe Mixon over 50 receiving yards each for plus 2,500. Both of these teams ranked in like the bottom half of the league in terms of receptions allowed to opposing running backs. So it's kind of a leak for both teams. And Mixon and Akers are the best passing backs probably on their team, and they're both going to get lots of run. I like that one more just because the odds are so big, and I think it's realistically got a slightly better chance of happening.
All right, let's move into the pass catchers here. Odell Beckham Jr. has definitely made an impact in LA after moving over from Cleveland, but do you think he can reach 125 receiving yards and 1 touchdown here against the Bengals? So, Alan, you can get that for plus 1,000. Yay or nay?
I'm still in shock that Odell Beckham was on the free market and only the Rams offered him a deal worth taking. Both Green Bay and Kansas City really need to rethink their lives in the offseason. It's clear that Odell and Baker Mayfield were like a married couple staying together for the kids. It's fortunate that Odell has this number 2 role because there's less pressure on him and less coverage on him. We all know that Cooper Kupp is the alpha. This is another great find by our producers, finding another good prop. I like this one.
All right, Geoff. Feeling it?
I'm definitely feeling the touchdown for Odell Beckham. I mean, he's been really, really good in the red zone. He's very good at getting himself open just for Matthew Stafford. And I mean, again, like the issue just comes down to the yardage. I mean, the yards go to Cooper Kupp in this offense. Like we're almost going to have to see like a switch in philosophy here or something on the Rams for Odell Beckham to get over 125 yards. Could he break off an 80-yard touchdown? Absolutely. But I don't know if plus 1,000 is enough for me to bet on that. The touchdown prop, I'm all over. But maybe you just bet Odell Beckham like first touchdown score. Just bet him to score a touchdown anytime because I do like that side of this bet. I just don't think you're getting enough. We haven't seen enough usage or heavy targeting from Odell Beckham. He's going up against a pretty good secondary in the Bengals, in my opinion.
Pearce, do you like these odds?
I do not. If Kupp is the alpha, then Beckham is definitely the beta. Odell Beta Jr. has only gone over this once since 2019. One time since 2019. You go back to his prime, 2014 to 2018, he hit it 16 times over the course of 59 games. Yeah, it's impressive that he went over 125 yards 16 times, but more often than not, he didn't go over this number. I don't like this bet during his prime. I definitely don't like it now. We saw his ceiling last week with 9 catches for 113 yards. I just don't see how he goes over that. As Geoff mentioned, the Bengals may not have a great secondary, but they have a pretty good secondary, and I don't expect them to give up. If they're going to give up 125 to Beckham, then they're giving up a couple hundred to Kupp. That just seems like an insane total to me.
All right, guys. Well, a lot of times in the Super Bowl, role players can take center stage. So could that be the case with Cincinnati's Tyler Boyd? So just 10 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown in the postseason, but you can get plus 220 odds for him to haul in 125 plus passing yards. Ooh. So are you in on that? By the way, Geoff, this is something he's done 4 times in his career, but not since September 2020. So how do you feel about it?
I mean, I really like Tyler Boyd as a player. Like I've kind of tried to be bullish on him all season. We just haven't seen the usage from him. But we're talking about like we were just talking about Odell Beckham to basically do something similar here and score a touchdown. And his odds were less than half of this. I mean, Tyler Boyd at plus 2,200 just to go over 125 receiving yards. It's not that outlandish. I mean, we've seen T. Higgins go off for in spots like that recently. There's no reason why the coverage just can't shift to Tyler Boyd here. He's more than capable of taking advantage here. I think you could also look at Tyler Boyd over 100 yards and a touchdown. He's been a very, very good player in the red zone for the Bengals as well. He had like a 4-game stretch where he caught touchdowns in 4 games. And, the Rams, again, they're pretty good at shutting down teams' number ones, but we've seen them also give up pretty big yardage here. So I actually like this one. I think you're getting good enough odds on Tyler Boyd at plus 2,200 to take the over on that one. I might even prefer him just going to plus 1,600 for a touchdown and just going over 100 receiving yards, so you don't necessarily need the big play either.
Pearce, are they good enough odds for you?
No, I can't chase the yardage prop. I like him in DFS. I think he'll get the receptions. Great chance of getting a touchdown, but I can't make the yardage work. He has a 7.7 ADOT, the lowest of his career. He's not running deep routes. 389 yards after the catch this season, which calculates to 24 yards after the catch per game. I just don't know where the yards are going to come from. Late in the season, he did have a 50-yard catch against the Ravens and a 50-yard catch against the Broncos. Let's say, hey, he gets a 50-yard catch. All right, well, where's the rest of it going to come from? He doesn't run deep routes. He doesn't have a large target share. I think he is someone you want to check out in DFS, but I'm going to avoid Boyd in this situation.
Alan, are you avoiding Boyd?
A lot of good logic in both of those arguments. I, too, like Tyler Boyd as a player, and he's always underrated in your fantasy football leagues, right? He's been a set-it-and-forget-it, boring player for a couple of years, but he is an essential part of this game plan. The backup running backs and the tight ends are more involved than Boyd is at times, so the odds are pretty good, but not appetizing enough for me to play it.
Guys, we don't often get special team parlays. This is really exciting. But we have them on the DK Sportsbook for Super Bowl 56, including one for Bengals rookie kicker Evan Mcpherson to make 5+ field goals in the game at plus 1,600. They don't call him Money Mcpherson for nothing, Pearce. Is that something you might be interested in? Go ahead and tell me why you're not.
I can't wait for next week when we get to talk about punt props. It's going to be awesome. I'm not joking. We will get into punt bets. I guarantee
we
it.
have 2 weeks between the Super Bowl. It's still 9 days away. We're going to hit every single bet on the DK Sportsbook.
You know, if you look at the Bengals' last game against Kansas City, they had 9 possessions in regulation. So we're going to need them to score on half of their possessions, but also we're going to need every one of those to be field goals. I think it's tough to get that many scores and then to have all those scores be field goals. It's just a little bit too far. I could see him getting 3 field goals, maybe 4, but 5 is just way too many.
All right, Alan, how do you feel about this one? Or maybe there's another one on there you like. How about Evan McPherson, 6+ extra points made? You can get plus 2,200 odds on that.
When the story of the NFL is written in 2021, Evan McPherson is going to get at least a sub-chapter. He's the only kicker to get selected in the real NFL draft. I believe it was in the 5th round, and he's been reliable as peak Justin Tucker. Kickers don't matter, crowd need to take an L on this one. Having a reliable kicker that splits the uprights at 50+ is just such a massive edge. Can he do it? 5+ field goals? Sure. I like the 6 extra points. That one's pretty good too. But the Bengals are unlikely to settle for field goals, especially when they're in plus territory. They know they're the underdogs who need 7s, not 3s. I would, plus 2,000, I'd probably go in on it, but not at the current odds.
Geoff, I know you like to get weird, so you feeling this? Or it looks more like plus 800, McPherson and Gay, 10+ kicking points each, right?
No, you're right. I mean, look, it's Thursday. We're already into field goals here. This if there is ever going to be a spot, this may not be a better spot to take a kicker to make 5+ field goals. I mean, you've got the Bengals. They're attempting 4 field goals over the last 3 games. It's a team that even during the regular season was up there in the top 10 in terms of field goals attempted. Then you've got the Rams, who are like a top 12 red zone defense. So they're very good at stopping teams inside the red zone. Are we getting a perfect storm here for Evan McPherson? Money McPherson? I think plus 1,600. If this was plus 2,000, I think I would bite here. So it's very close. And if you're just I don't know, maybe you just like kickers. Maybe you're just the kicker guy in your family. I don't think sprinkling money here is bad. I think the plus 10 points for each at plus 800 probably the slightly better bet. But these are kind of interesting. By the end of the week, I'll probably be all over these and touting them as the greatest bet in the world. But for now, maybe just I don't know. Wait until you get a little more dust.